Hello, Suzanne Kellner-Zinck with Dawn Visions Hypnosis. This morning I received a ping on my WhatsApp from a gentleman who has been wanting to interview me for a few weeks now for his own podcast. And we actually did a few smaller segments for him. The last one where I actually asked him what it was like for him to spend time in various mental hospitals, because he had told me during the previous interviews that he had spent quite a bit of time in many different mental hospital settings in Southern California. And the reason this is really important is because too often people think that it's not that big a deal to go to a mental hospital. I'm talking about the providers. Now, yes, if someone's suicidal or homicidal, they need to go there. But this is the greater point that this gentleman brought out. There was a lot of very unsafe situations that he found himself in some of these places that he was there for his own safety, quote unquote. There were people who got into fights. There was some things that happened that were worse than fights. In general, the staff was really tired. They had been there for years and years and years and were burnt out, didn't care that much, and it showed in many of the places he was in. And then the other problem, especially for someone who is doing okay but just needs a little support, every second of the day is scheduled, regimented. And that means there's very little to no free time. They're told when they can eat, and of course they're given the food that's on the menu for that day. And as he was explaining to me, being the entrepreneurial spirit he is, this is really hard for a person like him because he doesn't live his life according to a schedule like that. He's an entrepreneur so that he can schedule his time the way that he wants to, doing activities that he cares about and that help him attain his goals. But yet when you're in a mental hospital, you don't have any say over any of that. I can also say from the stories that my clients, most especially my anorexic clients in particular, not only was every minute of every day scheduled for them, they were not allowed to use their cell phones, and they had to have everything taken away from them that they could cause any harm to themselves with. Now, I'm not against that being done if you actually have a person who's demonstrating self-harming behaviors. It needs to be done in that case. But is that true of every single anorexic who shows up in these institutions? No. A proportion, sure, but not all of them. And this is the problem. When people lose their authority over themselves and are treated like they're numbers in an institution instead of as the people they are. And this is one of the complaints that I got from many of my clients who have spent time in mental hospitals, as well as this gentleman. It doesn't help them heal. It makes things worse after the fact. So if you are a person who is thinking about having someone placed into one of these places, do your research first on the place. Second, make sure it's absolutely mandatory the person go in for their safety or the safety of others. Because not only can these places cause a lot of trauma themselves, but it's a record. It's a medical record that will be forever with these folks. So let us be very realistic about what is going on here and when it's appropriate and when it's not, and to make sure that the people who are in the institution actually care about the patients they're there to care for. Because without that, it becomes a very horrible situation for everyone concerned. As always, I thank you for spending your time with me. Till next time. Bye bye.